The government of Israel has ramped up settlement of the occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem, transferring its own population into the territory and unlawfully demolishing Palestinian homes. At the same time, settler violence has increased with continued impunity. A report published by our office today also outlines the ongoing transfer of powers over the occupied Palestinian territory from the Israeli military to the government. By doing that, the Israeli government is facilitating the advancement of settlements in the West Bank and the steady integration of this occupied territory into the state of Israel, the report finds. Israel's settlement policy, its act of annexation, and related discriminatory legislation and measures are in breach of international law and violate Palestinians' right to self-determination. The transfer by Israel of parts of its own population into the territory it occupies amounts to a war crime. Today's report, which covers the 12-month period up to the end of October last year, refers to plans to construct over 20,000 housing units in new or existing Israeli settlements in East Jerusalem alone, according to Israeli non-governmental organizations. In the meantime, 214 Palestinian properties and structures have been demolished in East Jerusalem. Over 10,300 units within existing Israeli settlements in the rest of the West Bank are in the pipeline, and an unprecedented 49 new Israeli outposts have been established. The report also points to plans to increase the provision of Israeli government services in settlements. This further institutionalizes long-standing patterns of systematic discrimination, segregation, oppression, domination, violence, and other inhumane acts against the Palestinian people. The current climate has empowered Israeli settlers. The current climate has empowered Israeli settlers to attack Palestinians, force them from their homes, and seize their land. During the reporting period, a total of 612 Palestinians were killed in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, by Israeli security forces and settlers. 24 Israelis were also killed in alleged attacks or clashes with Palestinians. The line between settler and state violence has blurred to a vanishing point. With steps taken by Israel to further militarize the settler movement, including by enlisting thousands of settlers into Israeli security forces operating in the West Bank. We reiterate that Israel must immediately and completely cease all settlement activities and evacuate all settlers, stop the forcible transfer of the Palestinian population, and prevent and punish attacks by its security forces and settlers. Now over to my colleague Ajit Sangay, the head of our Office for the Occupied Palestinian Territory, who's joining us from Amman.
Thank you, Tamin. Thank you, colleagues. Colleagues, before speaking to you today about our latest report on the occupied West Bank, I would like to start with the tragic developments overnight in Gaza, where we are hearing reports of hundreds being killed, many of them civilians, in a wave of Israeli strikes. The Israeli military reportedly hit residential buildings, schools, IDP camps, a trend that has been documented extensively by our office since October 2023. We're again seeing the scenes of mutilated bodies of children and bodies wrapped in shrouds. The Israeli military also issued a displacement order from several parts of Gaza, indicating a return to a pattern which led to the forced displacement of 90% of the Palestinian population in Gaza, often several times. It is unacceptable, even unimaginable, to once again find ourselves talking about this instead of supporting a path towards meaningful recovery and sustainable peace. The situation is compounded by the blockade of Gaza. For over 2 weeks now, Israel has closed all crossings and prevented the entry of humanitarian aid, fuel, and other supplies. We're also concerned about reported plans to cut off the little that remains of water supply. With no fuel, no electricity, and no aid, how can bakeries, water desalination plants, and other critical infrastructure operate? How long before all food runs out and we are again facing hunger and starvation? Once again, we remind Israel of its obligation to comply with international humanitarian law's fundamental principles of distinction, proportionality, and precaution in its attack. Any targeting of civilians not directly participating in hostilities is a war crime and must stop immediately. Blocking aid from reaching civilians is a collective punishment and must stop immediately. And the use of starvation as a weapon of war is a crime under international law. Simply, this violence and the killing must stop immediately. The hostages must be released. Those arbitrarily detained must also be freed. Now, colleagues, to the report we are putting before you today, which points to another deeply concerning trajectory taking place in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. Israel is taking serious and accelerated steps to annex more and more parts of the occupied Palestinian territory in violation of international law. In the West Bank, settlements are expanding at an alarming rate. This is coinciding with a series of legislative and policy steps that are increasingly allowing for land appropriation from Palestinians and further facilitating the extension of Israeli sovereignty and laws over the West Bank. The rampant, forcible displacement of Palestinians from their homes and lands in the West Bank further exacerbates the situation. We're witnessing a violent and ever-expanding Israeli operation that started last January in the northern parts of West Bank, particularly in Jenin, Tulkarem, and Tubas. This operation has so far killed 59 Palestinians, displaced tens of thousands, and emptied the entire refugee camps. Displacement is further fueled by continuously increasing home demolitions and evictions, settler violence that can no longer be separated from state violence, and daily appropriation of Palestinian land on alleged security grounds, only to be later allocated to serve settlers. We have a clear legal pathway to follow here, confirmed last year by the International Court of Justice. The occupation of the Palestinian territory must end as rapidly as possible. All Israeli settlers must be evacuated, and all settlements of this territory must cease immediately. The international community has a strong mandate to take meaningful action to prevent annexation and ensure Palestinians' right to self-determination. Member states must act now. Thank you.